Hi, and welcome to Today Matters, our short devotional in the Word of God. We're going through the book of Psalms, and today we're going to look at Psalm chapter 10. The first part of Psalm 10 is a lament. A lament is a prayer, an honest, things are not so good right now kind of prayer. I love an honest prayer to God. And I really like how Eugene Peterson, pastor and theologian and author of the Message paraphrase version of the Bible, describes prayer. He says prayers are not tools for doing or getting, but for being and becoming. This is so good and really speaks to the lament psalms. We are shaped by our crying out to God, and the psalmist is being brutally honest with God. And what we see in this psalm is a relationship that allows for brutal honesty, and that honesty turns into a soul-shaping experience. And this is my favorite thing about the Psalms. You find people saying things to God that many of us would not say because we don't often see God as someone to have a conversation with. But He wants to be in a relationship with us. And let's be honest, if you're in a relationship with anyone, every single conversation you have is not going to be pleasant. Sometimes you get real and you get honest and raw, and these conversations can be difficult. And many of the lament psalms are difficult conversations with God. So let's read Psalm 10, 1 through 11, as the psalmist has an honest conversation with God. I'm reading from the NLT version. O Lord, why do you stand so far away? Why do you hide when I am in trouble? The wicked arrogantly hunt down the poor. Let them be caught in the evil they plan for others. For they brag about their evil desires, and they praise the greedy and curse the Lord. The wicked are too proud to seek God. They seem to think God is dead. Yet they succeed in everything they do. They do not see your punishment awaiting them, and they sneer at all their enemies. They think nothing bad will ever happen to us, and we will be free of trouble forever. Their mouths are full of cursing and lies and threats. Trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues. They lurk in ambush in the villages, waiting for murder innocent people. They are always searching for helpless victims. And like lions crouching and hiding, they wait to pounce on the helpless. Like hunters, they capture the helpless and drag them away in nets. Their helpless victims are crushed. They fall beneath the strength of the wicked. And the wicked think, God isn't watching us. He's closed his eyes, and he won't even see what we do. Here the psalmist looks around the world he's in, and he's heartbroken. He sees this dichotomy of power that is unfair, and he sees injustices that have paralyzed the very people he loves. He wants or perhaps even expects God to care just like he does about the injustice he sees, and he wants God to step in. Like Jesus, the psalmist is moved with compassion for the hurting and the broken. And you can hear the disdain in his voice for the wicked, but it's less about the acts of the wicked and so much more about the effects of the wicked and the powerful. They see the powerful using their power and influence to gain more and more, all at the expense of others, the poor and the powerless. And they strive and they gain on the backs of those who are less fortunate, and he wants to see God do something. In fact, he's a little frustrated that God seems to be absent and unaware of the cries of the helpless. I mean, if God cared, then everything will be handled. But in reality, we know that God can't just fix everything. And in fact, he calls on his people to see the needs around us and to see the injustices in our communities and see the power structures that are simply breaking the backs of the powerless and to do something about it. This is the call that Jesus actually gives his followers. In Matthew 25, Jesus talks about the final judgment. And he says that there will be a separation of people with some on the left and some on the right. And he'll turn to those on the right, calling them the righteous ones, and he tells them they can enter the kingdom of heaven. And he says this, "For I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me." And then these people look back and say, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or naked or in need of a place to stay?" And then Jesus looks back at them and says, "I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me." If you're like the psalmist and you look around the world today and you see things that are just not right, may you be moved with compassion like the psalmist and like Jesus and give, act, care for, or whatever the situation requires, because today matters.